So having made this great journey over the Mount of Olives, down into the valley of Kidron, up the steep slope towards the Golden Gate, which is the entrance to Jerusalem that takes you straight into the temple courts, there's a very important detail that the crowds are shouting maybe who they think Jesus is, maybe their expectation of what is happening on that day. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. That comes from Matthew chapter 21. But these words are important enough for all four gospel writers to record them. Hosanna comes from the Hebrew word meaning Hoshianah, which literally means Lord, save us. When you then take the word into Greek letters and then English letters, you end up with the word Hosanna. Lord, save us, but the context is a shout of praise for what God has done and what God will continue to do. This comes from Psalm 118, and so do the other words. A psalm almost certainly written by David. The context of the psalm is speaking of God's deliverance, particularly deliverance from slavery in Egypt, but the expectation of deliverance in every situation because you remember that. So it's associated with the Passover, which is why these crowds have come to Jerusalem to celebrate and to see what God is going to do next as their land has been invaded by the Romans and they don't know what to do about it. There are some psalms that were written specifically for the journey to Jerusalem. Psalm 121, for instance, is a beautiful psalm that talks about looking up to the hills. It's talking about the hills of Jerusalem and seeing what is coming as you're making your way to the great festival. Psalm 118 is the last of a group of psalms that were probably spoken literally as you walked in. You've finished the journey and now the festival, the celebration is beginning. It's associated with Passover and it's also looking back at what God has done to deliver us in the past. Psalm 118 is also one of those ones that has these amazing words. His love endures forever. When you find really amazing and significant moments in the life and times of God's people, you will find this phrase being used. His love endures forever. In the Psalms, it's often done as a description of what God has done, giving thanks or a call to give thanks, and this line repeated. So it starts with, give thanks to the Lord for he is good. His love endures forever. That means this psalm is for a specific and momentous moment in the life of God's people. It's also a call to salvation. So verse 25 of Psalm 118 says, Lord, save us, and that is the word. Hosanna, Lord, grant us success. And then it goes on to say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So there are connections between Jesus and King David. Not just that Jesus is a descendant of King David and born in David's town, Bethlehem. It's also in this moment the way that David was for a period of time rejected by almost everyone. By his family, he was left out in the fields looking after the sheep when his older brothers were all thought to be more important. This psalm may have been written around the time when King Saul had gone crazy and was trying to kill David out of jealousy, even though all David was doing was serving his king. The jealousy grew the more amazing things that David did in God's name, but David's heart was humble and he didn't want to have a fight with his own king, and so he literally had to go on the run. But eventually, in God's timing and God's planning, God raised his servant up to be the great king, and that is what we see here happening to Jesus. And there is this amazing line in Psalm 118, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The one that everybody has rejected has become the thing on which everything is going to be built. And Jesus has come to build God's kingdom. But what kind of king did these people expect? That's probably where they went wrong. They remembered King David sitting on the throne room in Jerusalem and peace reigning at the end of his reign. The time coming to build things during times of peace and prosperity. Maybe that's what they still saw. Jesus had come to be a very different kind of king. And you need to look at David's moments of quiet humility and being willing to serve those who were persecuting him in order to really see the kind of king that Jesus was going to be. The crowd shouted these things without prompting, and they misunderstood. Remember what Pilate insisted on nailing to the cross. The King of the Jews. It read, the King of the Jews had come to do something beautiful and amazing and peaceful and life-giving that brings us forgiveness. That's the kind of king that Jesus was coming to be, and that was what would make him the cornerstone that the builders had rejected.